Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session. And it's my pleasure to welcome here Coach Daniel. Hi Daniel, how are you?
Hi, Veronika. I'm all good. Nice to be back here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I hope I can say you had a little getaway. And how was your little holiday? How did you enjoy it?
That was great. It was spring break for our kids last week, so we went to Mexico for
Mhm.
5 days in like this small all-inclusive resort, and it was actually
Mm.
super nice. Like you don't have to think about anything. The food is just there. The beach is there, and yeah, it was a very nice getaway. Weather was nice. We actually signed up for like to try scuba diving, which was
Mm.
really exciting. I always been a little bit scared of it, but we are gonna try. But then the first day, like the weather wasn't permitting. Then so they said come back tomorrow. Then the next day, like oh no, too many waves, so we never get to do that. But now at least we're all excited about it. So one day we'll try it.
Yeah, next time we go to Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So actually, we can already start because we have had a few questions. And we have a question here from Happy Kaharl. Kaharl, I don't know if I pronounce it right, but the question is I know that we should accept anxiety to be free of it. But when I see its symptoms like huge hair fall, indigestion, hormonal issues, bad skin, etc., makes it difficult for me to accept it. And let me finish because we have two more posts from this person. Sleep Coach School is amazing. You guys have not only helped me with my sleep, but also many other parts of my life. I wish God that you get everything you desire for. And the third part, and by the way, thank you. And I wanted to ask that it's just impossible to accept my weird thoughts and doing nothing about them. Can you please tell me the Northstar way to accept them, as taught by Coach Daniel in one of his videos? So I suggest we start from the end, and you can talk about the North Star, and I can talk a little bit about basically April's insomnia. So the word is yours, Daniel.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. Absolutely. So, firstly, so glad you found us, and thanks for all the kind words. But yeah, the North Star uh, idea or concept is something I worked on because one of the most common questions we get is I intellectually, logically understand, but somehow, like subconsciously or emotionally, on a deeper level, it hasn't sunk in. There's no real change happening. So how can we approach this? And so I pondered this a lot, and something that came to me, I realized, is that it is very well known in the space of like entrepreneurship or business or work in general, under what circumstances we humans do our best work. And when I teach this, I always like to give people like these two scenarios. So I always say like, so imagine that your employer said, this is what we want to see happening. And, we're going to assign you a manager who's going to look over your work every single day. They're going to give you frequent feedback. They're going to, reprimand you if you don't do well, etc. That's scenario A, like the micromanaging scenario. And then scenario B is your employer says, this is what we like to see happen, but, you know, you figure it out. You figure out how to do that. You have our trust to figure it out. And really, all of us want B, like scenario B. That is when we know we'll do our best work. And some people say, oh well, how about if you don't know what the work is about? Well, this scenario is like, imagine that you actually know the work. Well, if you know how to get things done, then you definitely want the B scenario, just the freedom to make it happen. And the same thing, I think, really applies like within ourselves. Like, when, for example, I don't know if you had a name, but the person who asked these questions, they understand logically that they can't stop thinking about certain things. They can't stop weird thoughts, but they would like to see that happening. They would like to not have those thoughts anymore. And this is kind of a perfect North Star scenario where we can be like, okay, brain, I know how to like, you know, regulate thoughts or like present various thoughts, etc. So what I would like to see is just I would like to have less of these thoughts, and I would also like to struggle with them less. I would like to not try to stop them so much, right? But how that happens, I leave to you. That the brain has to, you just figure that out. And that's kind of the North Star idea. We give the brain kind of like a big picture. This is what we like to see happening, but no instruction. We just like, but you figure out how to get there, you know? And kind of the most common follow-up question becomes something like, okay, but what if this? Or, but how do I actually do that practically? Well, then we can just go like, well, now we're kind of again, now we're micromanaging, now we're trying to have control again. What we want is again, like, no, you figure it out. So that's kind of the North Star idea presented there.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. It makes absolutely sense. And the first thing that comes to my mind when you get these follow-up questions like, what if this and what if that? And the moment you leave it up, okay, it's up to your brain. You already let your thoughts be there and you don't fight them because you basically you delegated the responsibility to sort this out to your brain. Like, I don't have to do anything. And with this approach, we already get the peace because we already start to bring back the trust to our own bodies and to our brains. So yeah, so I think it makes perfect sense. And I'd like to say a few words to the first question. I know that we should accept anxiety to be free of it, but when I see symptoms like huge hair fall, indigestion, hormone issues, bad skin, it makes it difficult for me to accept it. Of course, nobody can accept when we uh, don't feel good, when we see side effects of us not feeling well, being well. But I think we need to differentiate here. What is the sleeplessness and uh, where does it come from? Because if we should correlate the sleeplessness directly to hair fall, indigestion problem, etc., etc., then there are many studies that it's not there is not a direct link. It's the difference between correlation and causation, right? But if we talk about the stress that sleeplessness may cause, the fear and anxiety that is surrounded by all these, this can cause all these kind of things because it's proved like when we are extremely stressed, when we have difficult life circumstance, we might experience uh, the hair loss, indigestion problems, bad skin, and all these kind of things. So when we work on the stress, on the anxiety and fear, we not only solve all these kind of appearance issues, but also our insomnia. Because insomnia is just a surface manifestation of fear and anxiety. It's just the symptoms, just like everything you have mentioned, right? So, and one last thing I would like to say that your worth, sorry, the pronunciation and the worth and beauty, your worth and beauty aren't defined by how much you slept or any physical imperfections, right? So I just wanted to share this, and I would like to get to other questions, and we have quite a few already. So uh, we have a question from Niha. Hi, Niha. Hi, I found your channel in the New Year's, and I'm still not getting better. The insomnia is actually getting worse, only averaging 3 hours of sleep every night. I feel physically sick every day. So, what are your first thoughts, Daniel, when you hear this?
Yeah. Firstly, of course, me, I would say like I'm sorry to hear that things are, even more difficult now than a few months ago, and uh, just from a kind of empathy standpoint, that's something that's not so nice to hear. Like it's nice to hear when things are getting easier. So hang in there, of course. But the couple of things that came to me was like, firstly is the one where the word still, you can understand so much just from one word, and the word still can teach you so much. And when we say something like, hey, I found this channel 3 months ago, but I still haven't seen any difference, that somehow means that we were trying to use something to achieve something, right? But it's not working. Like the word still teaches us that we did something with this effect, but it's not working. So we're like, it's still not still happening. And the entire idea with every single video we make or every single piece of content or teaching is the idea that we want to not to try, we want to let go and leave the struggle, if you will. And the word still, it kind of teaches us that we're using something that is an invitation towards like acceptance and letting go as a means of achieving, like trying to have something, and there's some more evidence from that in the latter part of this comment, which is like, I'm still only averaging 3 hours a night, which is that there's an attempt to get more sleep here. We can see that there's kind of attempt to, like, I'm going to use these teachings to try to get more sleep. It's still happening is kind of an evidence of that. And finally, Niha said something about, like, I feel like physically sick. I feel like ill during the day. And I think that is so helpful to take a look at, because if we think that how we feel during the day is entirely dependent on how many hours we sleep, then of course we're going to feel a huge pressure to sleep, because nobody wants to feel sick or nauseous or ill or anything like that. And the way I love to do this is this thought experiment, where you imagine taking like a random person, off the street, and keep them up a whole night and ask them, like, how do you feel like now? That person is likely going to say, I feel tired, sleepy, foggy, which shows that, yes, sleeping little by itself, it has some impact on us. There is no need to try to deny that or downplay that. It is true. But what will this person not say? So a random person that we keep up all night will not say, I feel physically devastated, ill. I can hardly breathe. I'm vomiting. I'm nauseous. I feel a tsunami of anxiety. I feel like my world is ending, something like that, which shows us that what really, really matters in terms of how we feel the next day is not how many hours we slept, but the interpretation of it, the story we tell ourselves. When we think like, oh, the fact that I'm not getting any better means I'm broken, something is wrong with me, I'm never going to sleep again. That can produce a sense of feeling sick and pain and nausea and all this. So when we see this, what can happen is we go from like, oh, I have to sleep more not to feel like this, to like, oh, when my interpretation of what little sleep means changes, then my day will really, really change. So those were kind of like my immediate thoughts when I heard this from Niha.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for a really nice answer, Daniel. I think you covered it really nicely. And now we have a question from Fiona Young. Hi, I have been on this journey for about 7 months now, but only found sleep school and accepted it as solely anxiety 4 months ago. I am a D1 athlete at college, feel like the necessity to feel alert for my workouts, recover, and wake up early for morning practices is making it difficult to progress in my journey. I understand the teachings and try to embody them, but it's almost like my brain self sabotages. I know how to survive a little sleep, but I think if I recover, I will always be afraid it will come back, and so I'm subconsciously keeping myself in the struggle. Advice. Uh, right, so I think I can start, and thank you so much for this really nice question. And I really see how much struggle it gives you, Fiona, when you have such a tight schedule. And of course, something what we talk about here very often is the performance anxiety. It's really nice that you have already mentioned that you can function on little sleep. This is the really very first and helpful step. And also another really nice step that you have made is that you have accepted it as solely anxiety 4 months ago, and this is quite a big one, because when we at the beginning of our insomnia we try to chase sleep, and we are trying really hard to try all possible quick fixes, which they eventually do not help us, then we are constantly in the struggle of it, constantly in the vicious cycle of trying a new fix, which fails us, and we feel more frustrated. We are chasing another fix, which again fails us. And it's an endless cycle. So accepting it and seeing that it's just a fear and anxiety that it's causing us this insomnia, it's a big thing. And that's why you can work differently with this approach. So, and because for insomnia doesn't exist a quick fix. It is a constant work day by day. And I understand when you say you need to be alert for my workouts, recover, and wake up early for morning practices. And that is making it difficult to progress in my journey. Uh, yes and no. Of course, when you have really important things to do the next day, it's harder for us because we created the pressure. We try hard to sleep as much as possible because we believe that this is the key for us to perform well. But changing the narrative around this is the one thing. The other thing is that when you have a strict routine, a tight routine, you are basically living your life. And the more you engage in your life, the less power you give to insomnia, which means that insomnia thrives on attention. And the less attention you give it, the easier it gets over time. And because you are already on this journey for a few months, uh, I don't know how much you are familiar with all the teachings, but it's really helpful to have the knowledge. But you need to implement them also, because I have seen people who are going around the teachings. Okay, I understand them intellectually, but I'm too afraid to implement them. So it really takes courage and kindness if the things don't go the way we would imagine it, as good or as smooth, right? But another thing that comes to my mind, many of our students are athletes. They are trainers, sports teachers, and they were able to recover from insomnia. So your situation is not unique to any other. I'm just saying it because we have seen people recover before, like you before, and this is also possible for you, Fiona. And the last thing I wanted to comment on is that you are afraid that this will come back. You are not recovered unless you are uh, not afraid of it. And even when you are sleeping well, you are still open to experience insomnia, and only then you are recovered. If you are experiencing the fear, what if it comes back? Then you are not recovered. You can now I could share a little bit from my experience. It's about the truths that I have maybe already mentioned, but I think it's kind of important to talk about. I had this kind of truth with insomnia. If I kind of behave well, I will have my routine. I will get up at the same time. I will go to bed at the same time. I will not go. I will not go out late in the evening or travel. If I behave well, simply, I will be rewarded with a good sleep, which also happened. But when I, for the first time, dared to live my life, I took up swimming classes in the evening. I experienced a huge speed bump because, of course, after a class in the evening, I was really energized and I couldn't fall asleep in the evening. And then I was like, oh my goodness, what if I don't fall asleep tonight? And all the bad memories just came back to me. And, you know, this speed bump told me, okay, despite I was still sleeping well, I was still experiencing insomnia because I really like the teaching from you, Daniel, which was really eye opening. Sleep is not the cure for insomnia. Sleep, because At the core of insomnia is fear and anxiety, and sleeplessness is just one of the manifestations of anxiety, just like palpitations or sweaty palms, heavy breathing. So when you address the insomnia at its core, which is fear and anxiety, only then you will be free from it. So yeah, so I hope I have answered it. And right,
I
um,
just want to sneak one
yeah,
thing
go
in
ahead.
there really quickly, and it was your reply was very broad, and you covered everything. But there was one thing I want to ask, which was the sabotaging. And we hear this one a lot. I'm sure you heard this one a lot,
Mhm.
Veronica, which is that somebody says, listen, like I know, like intellectually there's nothing to worry about, and I kind of reassure myself, but it's almost like my brain is sabotaging, because my brain is always saying, but what if this, but what if that, and the word sabotage comes up very often. So I just briefly want to say that it can seem kind of odd when you understand that there is not really no real threat, when the brain keeps trying to say, like, but what if this, what if that. But what's really happening is that your brain is just a survival machine. It always wants to keep you safe, right? So it's often like scanning for potential threats, and it alerts you to, like, okay, but have you thought about this, have you thought about that, have you thought about this. It's not to sabotage or make your life miserable. It is because it's kind of just trying to make you prepared. And when we see this, we can just go from, instead of being like, oh, my brain is like sabotaging by sending me all these warning messages, to being like, oh, my brain is just trying to keep me safe. That's all. It's not necessarily pleasant, but I understand what you're doing, brain. You're not trying to sabotage. You're actually on my side. And that can make things a little easier, because then we're not in this antagonistic relationship with ourselves. So just want to add that one.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And we have here a few thank you notes, and we have one from Phil
Oh yeah,
Sirich.
be
Hey
rich. Great
guys,
to hear that.
been a while. Hope all is well. Yes, thank you. Thanks for being here. And now we have a from G. Thank you, Veronica. I worry about how I look on less sleep, and it makes me feel anxious. G, just one thing I would like to add. It's always okay to rely on our good old concealer to cover all our imperfections, right? So don't worry to reach out for all these hacks for us to make us feel pretty. And another note from Bad Andy. Just wanted to say thank you, Daniel. Your channel and book, Study Don't Forget It, have helped me so much. Perfect.
Nice to hear.
And Caesar, I think this is from our CIT Christian. Hi, Christian. Nice to have you here. And thank you, Daniel and Veronica, for your brilliant insight into insomnia. You gave me my life back. God bless. Thank you
Amazing.
so much. And right, so I think we can answer the last question, Daniel. And from G, I had an event over the weekend that made me worry about sleep, but I went anyway. And I was tired with no sleep, but now my sleep is bad again. Even though I face my fear, I feel lost again. And I have done well for a year due to Daniel's teachings, but this speed bump has lasted a week. So, what are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah. I'm glad we got a chance to look at this question from G, because there was sort of another thing I wanted to also bring up in the context of the appearance insomnia there. But firstly, I want to say that I'm super glad that G found things becoming so much easier after finding our teachings, the book, etc. And things have been easier for a year. That's wonderful, and that's not like a fluke or something like that. It to me it means that G really started to understand that there was no threat. There's nothing, no effort needed, and things happened. Sleep happened, and peace of mind happened by itself. That's wonderful. Now, when we've had some type of like really intense experience, like scary experience, we can still have some memories of it. Like there can still be a little bit of residual fear around it, right? And then G is like having this event and is maybe a little scared of like, should I go, should I not? And then G goes to the event and faces the fear, but still has some struggle after that, and now is kind of like weakened to a speed bump. And what I think, to me, what this is reveals is that if facing our fears is often really helpful, because we can see that nothing really happened. Like you did go to the concert, felt tired, but it's still completely safe. Like there was no harm done. And that can make us see like, okay, there's nothing there. There's nothing to be afraid of. And that can be really, really helpful. But sometimes facing your fear can become a little bit of this like trick again. Like, it become kind of an effort in itself when the idea becomes like, oh, I have to face my fear so that I can sleep well again. All right, now I'm going to face my fear so I can sleep well again. Well, now we're in this place of trying to kind of manipulate sleep and kind of like doing things with this kind of like underlying intent, which is completely normal, like zero judgment. Like it's very natural that happens. But when we see this, we can be like, I wasn't simply kind of like facing my fear. I actually was doing something with a little bit of hidden attempt there. Like I was trying to manipulate things a little bit. And then we can be like, oh, that became a little bit of an effort. I got it. Okay. Now I have understanding, and that can take us back to a place where we see like we don't really need to do anything. So that was kind of my comment on that. But I also wanted to go back to the appearance insomnia aspect and firstly say that, there's now so many people sharing their stories on our channel, which you can see that people have had insomnia for a long time and really intense insomnia and look just fine. Like none of the scary things we would think will happen, right? So that's one aspect of appearance insomnia. But there's another aspect of this, which our colleague Richard brought up one time, and it was the following: that imagine if you have like a night where you sleep quite little, right? And you then think like something catastrophic happened. And you're like, you're scared, you're sad. How do we look when we feel that way? Like we have kind of like, we're kind of our facial expression is kind of like hanging, we're sad, we're kind of maybe looking down, and that makes us look tired, not because we didn't sleep, but again because we feel kind of sad. It's kind of like our facial expression is often like the mirror of how we feel deeper inside, and that can then again make us think like, oh, I look this way simply because I didn't sleep. But it again more like how we think about it. Like another person can have a sleepless night because they were out partying with their friends and they take a shower and then they're like so excited, like they don't look tired because they're excited, they're happy. And so anything that again takes us from like, oh, I have to sleep more to look this way, but see that how we feel about things really also has a big impact, can really help. So I just want to sneak that one in there as well.
Yeah, perfect. It was just another thought that I wanted to also mention about the how inner struggles show up on us, like like on our face, on how we walk, how we just about our posture, our gestures, right? So yeah, perfect that you mentioned it. And just one last thing I wanted to tell to G is that when you mentioned that you went to an event over the weekend and that made you worry about sleep. But anyway, you did. This is wonderful because you just live up to your values. You pursue your life over sleep. And despite you didn't sleep well and you experienced a speed bump, this is the way how to overcome insomnia. Because when you live our life and we don't give power to our sleep, the next time the experience might be quite different. Because I just want to say that during my insomnia, uh, when I went somewhere because I just wanted to go, many times I ended up in tears and disappointed and I'm totally exhausted. Like I didn't sleep all weekend because I was so scared that I will not sleep, right? But eventually, over time, with all the inner work, it is all possible to travel again and to sleep well again. So this is the last thing I wanted to share. And yeah, perfect. I think we are done for today, Daniel. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you everybody who posted your questions. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye bye. See you next time.